Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. There's also a lot of stuff that happened this week, so let's get stuck in right away. News number one are still the biggest news from last week, and that is the executive order for the strategic Bitcoin reserve in the USA. President Trump signed it last week, and this week we sort of see the first balls moving. There was a meeting between representatives of the industry, from Michael Saylor to Brian Armstrong to people like representatives from the Ripple Labs, who sat down and explained the whole situation. Now, a few days later, the Bitcoin Policy Institute held their bi-yearly meeting where they actually invite lawmakers and decision makers to educate them about Bitcoin. And this year, we saw Senator Loomis there again. She is the head of the Banking Committee and the Digital Assets Committee, which is key and essential because having someone there that understands Bitcoin and Bitcoin only is vital. She now reproposed her bill of acquiring 1 million Bitcoin up to 2029 to the Senate and later also to Congress, and is eager to find other lawmakers. And looking at the event, you really did see this movement of this reserve is picking up fast. It doesn't mean that the US will buy roughly 200,000 Bitcoin each year going forward now, because there is some legislative process involved. They need to now send the executive order from President Trump to the Congress floor. They need to decide upon it. Senate also has to take a look of it. If the majority the Republicans hold and all of this work behind closed door is successful, this will then become a proposal. It will be turned into a bill. And from that point on forward, with these budget neutral strategies, the US can then acquire Bitcoin. All of this speculation also led to some interesting analysis. Fanek, the wealth manager who's also having a spot Bitcoin ETF with the ticker HODL, very interesting, said that if they would hold these Bitcoin for at least 20 years, as the bill by Senator Loomis proposes, you would actually be able to offset the national debt by roughly around 50%. If you hold it longer, up until 2049, you could actually reduce the US debt by $21 trillion. The debt currently stands at 36 trillion, and it seems like there's no stopping or end in sight. We'll need to now wait how things evolve, but considering that the right people are in charge in the right committees and that there is really a movement behind this, we could potentially see major announcements in the future. Then when we look to America, we also have to look to Europe, where ECB chief Christine Lagarde actually held a press conference last week as well, announcing the launch of the CBDCs in Europe in October. She's been very keen that it's an exciting and interesting phase in the ECB. However, there has been some internal pushback as well, with a Reuters article where employees and experts said they're not 100% certain how these things would work, because after all, there is a lot of moving parts involved. Banks have to get onboarded, institutions have to get involved. You also have to think about a way of actually getting this out to everyday citizens if the CBDC shall be used for payments and such as well. And as someone who works at a company where we are actually doing this, but just with Bitcoin and not CBDCs, there is a lot of challenges up in front of the ECB with this task. We'll need to wait and see how things evolved, but considering the pushback internally and the not so sure certainty of many experts, it could be that we see a delay in all of these things. I will actually make a video about CBDCs versus Bitcoin next week, so make sure to tune in for that as well. And then last but definitely not least, we also speak about Bitwise, one of the spot Bitcoin ETF issuers. They actually had the announcement of a Bitcoin Treasury ETF where they want to give investors the exposure to companies who hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Companies such as Strategy and MetaPlanet have shown that this is an effective strategy. However, maybe for the everyday investor, they don't want to just allocate towards one of these companies. They would like an ETF where they have multiple exposure to vast different companies who have the ability to maybe stack more or stack less. Also, very interesting if other spot Bitcoin ETF issuers will follow. But for now, Bitwise is the first one to announce this Bitcoin Treasury ETF. And with that, we're at the end of this week in Bitcoin. You know the drill. If you got questions, feedback, or just want to say hello, leave me a comment below. And if you know someone who finds these news interesting, share our YouTube channel with them so they can subscribe and never miss another video.